Welcome to Lunch Table, Southern Company's unscripted dialogue series discussing today's important cultural matters.
Hello, my name is Chris Womack. Thanks for joining us today. On this version of Lunch Table, I am so excited to have Matt Ryan join us. As you know, Matt Ryan is a fixture here in the Atlanta community from all the things he's done with the Falcons, but a lot of community things. And he's also been a good partner to Southern Company and Georgia Power and all the family companies of Southern Company. So it is an honor to have this opportunity to spend some time with him just to catch up. I mean, I hadn't seen Matt in a while and been curious about what's been going on with him. I mean, seeing him in the booth on CBS and seeing a few tweets from his wife and the family. So it's just a wonderful opportunity as we kick off this year, as we get close to the Super Bowl, to catch up with Matt Ryan and see what's going on. Matt, welcome.
Yeah,
it's good to see you,
man. It's great to see
you. It's always
you.
a pleasure. I mean, we've been together for a long time, and we've had some fun together.
Yeah, we have.
So, what's going on with Matt Ryan? What's new?
A lot of change.
Yeah.
A lot of change since the playing days here in Atlanta. But for me right now, I spent this last football season calling games for CBS, which was a lot of fun. Different challenge.
Yeah.
Stresses you in different ways, but it was cool, and I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun kind of seeing it from a different lens and kind of challenge myself in some different ways. So it was a busy fall. It was a lot of fun.
What was it like broadcasting here in Atlanta, broadcasting Falcons games?
The first time I did the Falcons here in Atlanta, which was, it was kind of a...
And you got called out. I mean, you got some recognition in the stadium.
Yes,
I remember that.
It was cool, and it was good to be back in the building. It was a hard loss for the Falcons that day.
Yeah, it was.
But it was a weird experience because my whole life, was basically on the field and coming out and seeing it from kind of a different perspective, the fans' perspective a little bit. It was a unique experience. I have to give Arthur Blank credit. He was incredibly generous and kind and made us all feel, at home.
Matt, one of the things we're doing a lot now here in the company, we talk about one team and we talk about collaboration and a lot of things around culture. And I know when you were, as the quarterback, team mattered to you and leadership mattered to you. I mean, talk about, as you make the transition, or even just back then, I mean, how you thought about leadership, how you thought about the team.
Yeah, I think, leadership to me, it comes down to a couple of things. Number one, you need to know who you're leading, right? So you need to know your people.
Right.
And I always, found it really important to get to know guys on a personal level and understand how they needed to be motivated. Some guys need a hug. Some guys need it, a little tough
kick in the
love.
butt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So everybody's different in that respect. So I always thought it was important understanding who you're leading. And then also, you have to know where you're going.
Right.
Right? There's got to be a clear path to where you're going. So knowing who you're leading and knowing where you're going, I think are two really important things. And then at the end of the day, like with all things in life, if you're successful, you need to be incredibly consistent.
Yeah.
And to me, that was always, one thing that I strive for every day in that building was to be as consistent in terms of my approach, my preparation, all of those things, but also consistent in how people could come to me and talk to me and how I would talk to, my peers and teammates and coaches. I always thought the consistency portion of it was key.
And then I guess, from your perspective, the other part of it is that I pay attention to in terms of not overusing sports analogies, but you can't do anything by yourself.
No. Yeah.
I mean, you simply can't get it done. You can't do it by yourself. You got to have the left tackle, the right tackle. Everybody's got to do their job.
Correct.
To be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I said it on air a couple times, but you can't complete passes on your back. No. You can't complete it when you're laying there.
You'll try to.
You would try, but it's not going to happen consistently. And so you're completely dependent, like you said, on your left tackle, on the left guard, on the center, of those guys handling their responsibilities. But you also can't catch it either, right? Yeah. You've got to have guys that can go out there and make those plays, create separation. And I always loved that part of football, right, is that when you get in the locker room after a win, it really feels like a team win, because you understand all three phases. All of the guys out there were kind of pulling their weight. And, that part of it is special.
Changing gears, you and I talked a lot after the killing of George Floyd, and you talked about what impact you could have in the community, and you decided to form your own foundation.
Yep.
Talk about that motivation, some of the things that you're trying to accomplish with your foundation.
Yeah, so we started ATL, Advance Lives. I guess it would have been, it's almost 4 years. It'll be, I think, 3 or 4 years in May. And it started, it started on my notes on my phone after I was on a Zoom meeting with our team, with the Falcons, in response to the murder in Minnesota. And so, unfortunately, it wasn't the first time that I had been in one of those meetings, right? Like, we had been in these kind of meetings a handful of times, but it felt different, and the response from the guys was different. And I remember guys getting on there and saying, candidly, we need our white teammates to step up too, right? We need everybody, to step up in this respect. And so I was kind of like, oh man, all right. Like, I always felt like I had my teammates' backs, but I was always pretty quiet on any of those things. And to me, it was I've got to do my part, right? And I think my parents raised me that way: to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I was writing on my notes, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna donate some money to this. And I got a suggestion from somebody else to open up a GoFundMe account to see what it could turn into. And it turned into quite a bit of money. And so I think the initial one we raised over somewhere between $2.2 and $2.5 million during that time. And when the money became significant like that, I was like, okay, I need to figure out.
What am I going to do?
Yes, I actually got to figure out a good process to figure out how this money is going to be best spent to make an impact in the areas that we wanted to make an impact. And so we took our time and we talked to a lot of different people. You and I talked. I kind of went all over Atlanta and said, let me educate myself, number one, on what's going on here. Let's make a difference in our own backyard. And basically came to the conclusion that, we want to be very intentional about creating opportunities, for black kids in the city of Atlanta, particularly in the west side of Atlanta. And we want to do it by helping already existing after-school programs. And I think we've done a good job of that. But we haven't, there's a lot of big organizations that do a really good job. The Boys and Girls Club, YMCA's. There's tons of different places that are nationally run organizations that do a great job. But in our city, there's also a lot of mom and pop shops.
There really are.
That have maybe 6 or 7 different kids that are coming there, and that might be their only avenue to get after-school help or someplace to go or someplace to get a meal. And it's really those kind of places that were more in need of financial support.
And where you can make a difference.
Absolutely. And so, that's been something that, I'm proud of in what we've done, and it's continuing to grow, which is really positive for us. We hired a woman, Taylor Stanley, who's fantastic. She runs the program now for us and is doing amazing work over there. And it's something that, I've got 3 young boys, and I often think I want to leave our city, a better place for that generation. And not just my boys, but all of our guys, all over the city. And so I think if we can each do a little bit, nobody has to do too much. We just each have to do our part, and I'm trying to do that.
Lastly, so as we think about how do we be successful as an organization, how do we be successful as a company, and each individual employee, things they should do for themselves to be successful, whether it's tenacity, whether it's learning, whether it's innovation, what's your advice about individual success? What drove you to be the quarterback that you were?
Yeah, I think I'll say 2 things. I think the thing that drove me was I was always, for whatever reason, even from a young age, I was always obsessed with seeing how good I could get. Like that constant chasing of, I think I can be better, I think I can be better, I think I can be better. And at the same time, a wild self-belief, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes unfounded,
Yeah.
you know, that wasn't there. But the other thing, and I say this about quarterback play in general, but I think it's true of life or whatever. And, you know, like good quarterback play is making the boring sexy.
Yes.
And it's the same thing for living, you know, a good life or being, you know, the best at what you want to be. You have to do the really boring things really well, over and over and over and over and over again. And, you know, the sum of all of that work turns into this, this really, you know, great product. And so that's kind of the two, you know, North Stars that were there for me, this kind of yearning to see how good I could get, to be the absolute best I could be. And then, you know, being really good about doing the boring stuff and kind of being consistent about it.
No, and I think about it as I sit here and talk to you and look at you. A lot of things about you I really admire. And the thing I just thought about the most was that you got knocked down a lot, but you got back up. You got back up, and I always remember that about you.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for getting back up.
Thank you.
Thanks,
yeah,
man.
thank you, Chris.
Okay.